Welcome to The Real Game, a podcast by coaches for coaches. I am your host, Matt Philbrick. Welcome back to this episode of The Real Game. I am your host, Matt Philbrick. I am joined tonight by a very special guest who I will introduce in a minute. I have been having some discussion with some fellow coaches, especially since February and March when the basketball season ended, and it's a crucial time to try to motivate my players to stay engaged, to stay focused, to not dwell too long on what just happened, but to start planning for what's going to happen next year. And the tendency always is, at least the pattern I've always seen at the high school level is, hey, the season's over, I'm going to take some time off. And that little bit of time off turns into weeks and months. And before you know, the season's here again and nobody's done anything. I have had the privilege the last few years of working with a gentleman that's here with me tonight. His name is Coach Bob Koch, and I'm going to let him introduce himself here in just a second. Bob does excellent work. He has a tremendous amount of experience that I'll let him speak into here in a moment. But I've sent a lot of guys over to him. I've been to his training center, and to me, Bob has been a crucial piece in helping keep my guys focused and engaged. I wish they would push themselves harder. I wish they'd go more often. I've had a few guys that have been very committed, a few guys that are on and off, but I've seen the work that he does. Coach, it's great to have you here tonight. I appreciate you being on the podcast with me. I'd like you to just take a minute, introduce yourself, tell me kind of how you got into this and how that led you into what you're doing now.
Well, this has been a very different journey. I first started coaching, believe this, in 1969. This is my 54th year of coaching. When I started in 1969, my first women's team, we won our first two games, and I'm really cocky figuring this is easy. I'm right out of college. This is cake. We lost 19 in a row.
Wow.
So we finished 2-19. The second year, we finished with 3 wins, 15 losses. And at that point, I realized it was not the players. It was all in me. If I could go back in a time capsule, and I think all coaches believe this, there's a couple things you would change. What I now know would have made those teams very different. I feel it's very strange for me to accept that those seniors had those kind of years, those 2 years. But that third year, we won 12, the next year 19, and we went back-to-back 26-0, 25-0. And coached at Roman Catholic, City Championship, Plymouth Whitemarsh State Championship, Archbishop Kennedy District and League titles, Norristown League title, and certainly one of the biggest surprises for us was winning a Catholic League title at Bishop Kenrick High School. So I'm not new to the success part of it, but I started out very unsuccessful, and that blame certainly is on my part. After the second year, I made it a passion to go out and study. I traveled to North Carolina to work with Coach Krzyzewski, at Duke, North Carolina with Dean Smith, Jim Boeheim, Raleigh Massimino, Coach Calipari when he was at Pitt and Mass. So I've traveled all over the country. I spent 9 days with Coach Olson at Arizona. So at last count, I've worked for 17 Naismith Hall of Fame coaches. There's nobody around that certainly can trace that kind of background. And there's several others that I've worked with that are probably on the edge. So it's been a very different background for me. But as I expect players to do things, I expect myself to do things. So I have committed to learning the game. And even though it's my 54th year, I recognize that the game has changed dramatically on both sides of the basketball. And Coach, just 2 weeks ago, I was a VIP guest of Jay Billis' Skill Camp. Now, most people don't recognize that, but Jay Billis is certainly one of the two top color commentators in the game today.
Sure. Yep.
Charles Barkley and Jay Billis are the two heavyweights. I was fortunate enough to be part of their leadership academy and their skills camp just this past week when they had to draft. 3 of the top 15 players were at that skills camp that we worked. And that was at Davidson College, where Steph Curry played basketball. So I had a chance to meet the men's and women's coach at Duke, get pictures with with Curry's head coach, with Jay Billis, and a lot of name tags. But most importantly, on my end, I came back with a wealth of knowledge. It was amazing. The passion, the integrity, the coaching commitment. Great experience for me. So I'm still doing it. Everything I do at this point is private work, individual work, group work, shooting clinics, all kinds of programs. And keeps me young. It keeps me active.
Definitely. I've seen you coach. I've seen you at your training center. I've seen how you interact with the guys. You are always bringing the latest stuff, cutting edge, just the drills you put these guys through, and the skills that you're teaching them are just, to me, they're awesome. And I appreciate your work. I appreciate what you're doing. I know that your credentials are, obviously, you are extremely qualified and could probably be doing a lot of other things, but I'm humbled that you're taking the time to work with guys that are the caliber of the type of guys that I'm coaching. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time to invest in them. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the importance of off-season work. It's a huge thing that I try to emphasize. So I prepared a few questions for you. So here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Obviously, a large part of what you do is help athletes take their game to the next level. Many athletes will never get there because they refuse to put the work in during the off season. How, and this is really the meat of what we're talking about tonight, how important is off-season work for athletes of all ages?
See, when you think about this, when the season ends in January or February, the thing that is the curveball for me, some kids are playing AAU, they're playing travel, they're playing rec. And for a lot of kids, they're very satisfied with playing games. They play 2 games, 3 games, 4 games a weekend. And the last thing they do is touch a basketball individually. Now, my concern is that if you're going to play the game, you have to do 2 things. You have to work on your skills, develop them, master them, to transfer them to the games. Games without skills doesn't work. Skills without games doesn't work. Unfortunately, in our society today, we have taken the approach of playing games is going to put you in a position to be successful. Now, there are 2 very important, maybe 3 very important statistics. Number 1, 4 of the latest MVPs in the NBA have been non-American. 25% of the NBA now is non-American. That's number 1. Number 2, less than 1% of the players who play high school basketball will get a scholarship. Number 3, 75, and this is an alarming statistic, 75% of the kids are out of their sport by the age of 13. Now, I'm saying that's alarming because if the kids want to play at the next level, they have to devote their time to skill development. They have to find the appropriate coach, the appropriate program. This is any sport.
Sure.
Unfortunately, they have focused their time and effort in playing, and when they get home from a weekend tournament, particularly away, they don't want to touch a basketball. And what I try and drive home to the players, work your skills. In our program, you work once a week. Sometimes players work multiple times, an hour and 30-minute session. In between those sessions, players are given a list of items or drills that they should be working on by their own. Now, I hear parents say to me, well, they're working on their own, they're working their skills. Well, I don't buy that. I don't accept that. That's not credible. First of all, in this sport, in any of these sports, anybody can put the word coach on their sleeve and they're a coach. They haven't necessarily earned it. Parents do the same thing. They think they can coach their son or daughter and coach them up. They can't. If it were that easy, Why does James Harden, why does Steph Curry, why do LeBron James have their own personal trainers, and they've had them for 8, 9, 10 years,
Hmm.
the best in the game ever, and they have personal trainers working on skills. For parents that need to get certainly some type of incentive or motivation, look at some of Steph Curry's drills and realize he's got a personal trainer that's working with him on quiet eye, perceptual development, and skill development. So to me, it's a very simple formula. Find a coach that's going to work on your skills. And in this day and age, it's even more important because the game has changed so radically on both sides of the ball.
Hmm.
What I taught 5 years ago is somewhat irrelevant. What I taught 25 years ago is dinosaur. It's done.
Hmm.
The way teams are playing defense now, the way they use the 3-point line, the screens, the pick and rolls, the elbow, all this has changed the game on both sides of the basketball. So parents and coaches need to find coaches that are going to help and recognize that and have players work on their skills. Steph Curry's first line in his book on shooting is, if you can't dribble, you can't shoot. If our players can't dribble,
Hmm.
they can't pass, they can't make layups,
Hmm.
and they certainly can't hit open players.
And if I can just chime in on
Go
that
ahead.
point right there, my my guys frequently come up to me either during the season, after practice, or in the off season. Coach, what can I work on? My go-to answer is always ball handling skills. That's the first thing you need to master, in my opinion, because I say if you can't dribble and handle the basketball, you can't help your team. If you turn the ball over, you can't help your team. If you can't dribble to the basket, you can't score. If you can't get open with a basketball, you can't be effective. So, to your point, if you cannot master dribbling and ball handling skills, really the rest of the game doesn't matter. Am
You
I
can't
off on
play the
that?
game. You can't play the game. And you know what, here, coach, if a parent or player states to you, well, he's a shooter. Well, if he's a shooter and I know he's a shooter and can't put it on the ball on the floor,
Hmm.
I'm going to guard him in such a way he's not going to get a shot.
Yeah.
If he can dribble, he's going to create space and he can potentially beat me. So the number one trick here is being able to put the ball on the floor and create space. And if you're able to do that, you can make your layups, you can see the open player, you
Hmm.
can take shots, and certainly you can see and recognize traps or double teams when they develop. So the number one key, all these players that develop ball handling skills. Now, how do you do that? There's all kinds of elixirs that would assist you in doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I've seen some of the things you've put together at your skills camp. The tennis ball drills. I was, and this is it's comical to me, but so effective. The last time I was there, you had the Simon games on the wall, and the guys were tapping away at those and dribbling. Never seen that before. I've probably told 10 people about that since I was there just 2 weeks ago. It just the different ball handling things that they're doing, the footwork and agility drills that they're doing that are all part of that. So just I could talk about that one thing all night, but we're going to move on and talk about some other stuff. Go ahead.
I was going to say to you, since you saw that 2 weeks ago with Simon, and to my knowledge, we're the only program in the country that uses Simon
Yep.
for ball handling skills. And that is not something I read about or saw. I was in Staples and I saw two of them on closeout. And I thought, how can I use these for basketball?
Yep.
I bought two. Now I have 10 stations. We use them with players, beginners, one ball. Then they had two. And now we've added a harness.
Wow.
We put a harness on a player's waist. His partner is restraining him while that player is dribbling two basketballs
Hmm.
and playing Simon as a game. Our latest is we bought what are now called NBA dribblers. They're only 2.5 inches. They look like a basketball, except they're different colors, but they dribble like a basketball.
Okay.
So we're doing 3 of those at a time, 2 at a time, 1 at a time. The kids love them. They're fun, and it really focuses on their finger pad development, not the heel or the palm. Uh, we've added several things since I saw you just a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm. Well, I'm excited to get over there and see
It's
some.
nuts. It's nuts. Oh, my latest tonight. I got to interrupt this.
Yeah.
We've all played cornhole.
Yep.
Yesterday, I started basketball with cornhole.
Okay.
Now, Player stands next to cornhole, got a player next to him. The player is next to the side of the cornhole box, is dribbling the basketball with his left hand and pitching the bag in the hole on the opposite end. So he gets 4, the other player gets 4. So we're working left hand dribble.
Yeah.
We're focusing on the quiet eye, that little spot on the cornhole board, and we're dribbling a basketball and pitching at the same time. So hand eye coordination, quiet eye, and dribbling.
Yeah.
And the kids love it. We did it yesterday and today. I did it with 3 high school players tonight.
Yeah.
They loved it.
I'm sure they did. I'll never look at cornhole the same now. All right, Coach. Moving on to the next question. What are some tangible benefits that athletes can gain from off-season workout, whether it's basketball, volleyball, soccer, whatever? Like, what are some, just how can they benefit? We already talked about ball handling, how important that is for basketball, but just in general to the average athlete, what are some benefits that they can gain from off-season workouts?
I think, first of all, there's many ways of looking at this. In order to establish a program yourself, you're working on time management. So you're going to figure out how much time do you want to spend on a particular drill or series of drills.
Right.
Secondly, just at the Jay Billis camp last year, one of the Division I coaches suggested that every player keep a journal of what they do every day, and add to it as they go from day to day. Now, most players don't.
Mhm.
I keep a journal. I've asked the players to keep it. So 1, the time management. 2, the responsibility of keeping a journal, knowing what you're doing, the responsibility of setting a timetable with your time management.
Mhm.
But most importantly, I think, is that when players are working their skills, they develop confidence. Now, it's the one thing that coaches cannot give, but they can take away. If a coach says to a player a derogatory statement about his performance, take it away. I cannot credit card a player confidence by saying you're good. The way that develops is the kid or the player working on their skills in any sport, working on their skills. And once they work on them and start transferring them into games, their confidence develops.
Mhm.
Parents come up to me and say, well, look, he's not confident. I said, well, when his skill development reaches a certain level, he will try them in games, and therefore his confidence will start to mushroom. But you have to start it with the skills and confidence. Another feature, of course, is the more they're working on skills, the better shape they get.
Mhm.
And one of the points that you addressed in the question is that how does that affect the injury situation? Well, I can't go full tilt with players early on in the summer because they're not shaped. And certainly when it gets hot, they're not acclimated to heat.
Mhm.
So I have to gradually get them in a situation where I can develop that endurance. So working outside, working on the skills, and certainly have players who are committed to what they want to do. There's so many intangibles. You can't measure the confidence, you can't measure the stamina, but you can see it, you can feel it.
Mhm. It's funny you talked about confidence. I just did the last podcast episode I did was all about it was a list of 5 things that coaches do to destroy their players' confidence. And it was a good episode. I had a couple other guys on there. But you're right, a coach can really tear down a player's confidence, but it is hard for a coach to give confidence or instill confidence in his players. One of the things on my list that we didn't get to was that coaches neglect. One way they destroy the confidence of their players is they neglect teaching skills to their players. And I think you make an excellent point. The more skills that a player develops, and the more that they can see those help and advance their game, the more confidence they get. So that's a great point. Great point. You talked about just a second ago, you alluded to injuries. That was my next question. And you mentioned, and I can certainly understand it when a kid stops playing basketball in February, and let's say they take March and April and part of May off before they even come to you, chances are they haven't been doing anything for those 3 months.
Yeah.
They're not in great shape. You need to get them into better shape, and certainly that helps injury prevention. The worse shape they're in, the more likely they're going to get injured. And certainly, maybe you can just talk about briefly how does that help them the next season, being with you, working hard in the summer. How does that help them a little bit to help prevent injuries, whether it's
Well,
knee
see,
injuries or whatever it is?
this is the benefit. I'm fortunate to have what I have. I have an indoor, as you know, an indoor basketball court. It's
Hmm.
not a full court, but in the wintertime, we cannot do the full court because we don't have it. So what we do is focus completely on skill development, passing drills, layup drills, footwork, agilities, all those things, assignment, multiple basketballs. But once we're outside, we do our core work inside, our skill work, and then we're outside doing 3-person weave. We could do a 5-person weave, 11-man break, a 30-second, 60-second layup. But one of the things that we recognize is that we cannot go back to back to back aerobic. So we'll do a ball handling skill. For example, tonight we used the cornhole, and then we went aerobic. We did layups.
Hmm.
So, but I also know that I can't do 11-man break for 10 minutes. I can't do a 5-person weave for 10 minutes. I have to do it in segments, 3 minutes, then on. So as the season develops, as we go from June to July, August, and the players get more in shape, but they're out of shape right now because during the basketball season, they're doing 6 days a week.
Hmm.
When the basketball season's over, if they're playing AU, how much time are they playing? How many games are they playing? And they're not working in between.
Yeah.
So it's imperative on my end. I have to recognize where these kids are in terms of shape.
Sure.
And then I have to tailor what I do to adjust to where these kids are in shape. They're not ready. But as we get closer to the end of July and August, these kids will be in shape.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. What are some things that me as a coach or other coaches can do to encourage their athletes and keep them engaged in the off season?
Well, I'll tell you what I do. First of all, I'm very supportive and very complimentary, and I let them know. And most times it's individually because I see the players a lot, and I tell them these are the things I want you to work on, and I'm constantly reminding players, nice job, compliments, supportive. Now you've seen me in operation. I can be very bearish.
Hmm.
I can be very intense. But in the next couple moments, I'll talk to the player and I'll whisper in his or her ear, I love you.
Hmm.
I do it all the time. They know my responsibility is to address it. Now, each coach has their different tenor.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're very easy, sometimes they're very direct. But I understood this too, Coach. Um, one of the sports psychologists that you brought it up previously asked me what the most powerful 3-letter word is that a parent, coach, teacher can use with a player. And quite frankly, I was with a bunch of other coaches. None of us got it right. Most powerful 3-letter word that you, as a mentor, can put out there for a player. And I use it particularly as a player coach relationship. And the answer is YET. We often say things, you haven't made your layup, you didn't make the pass. Instead of saying, you didn't make your pass yet, you haven't made your layup yet. You made a negative, a positive, but a 3-letter word,
Hmm.
and it's positive. So, in my perspective, coaches need to be passionate, intense, and certainly knowledgeable and very supportive.
Hmm.
One of the things, Coach, that I picked up over the week at in Charlotte, the number of coaches that were there, Division III. Now, this is not a buffet camp.
Hmm.
It was all the coaches coaching were Division III coaches, mentoring high school coaches.
Okay.
So you're a Division III head coach. I'm working with you to get better. The intensity, the passion, the knowledge. Give an example of something that happened that shocked me down there. Players are on the court. They're wearing blue and white. One of the players in blue goes to the floor and fell down, tripped. The number of players wearing blue and white that walked over to pick him up, to help him pick him up. It wasn't a team thing. It was an individual thing.
Yeah.
Like it happened numerous times. Everybody was receptive to helping some. We don't see that here.
Yeah.
We don't encourage it here.
Yeah.
And it's a simple thing like that. I noticed it as a coach. Talented players, not like, oh, okay, he's on the floor.
Yeah.
Helping the player get up. Didn't matter that the player was wearing a different color jersey.
Hmm.
It was a wow for me. It was
Yeah.
a great learning experience.
Yep. Yep. That's awesome. I wanted to ask you, you've done some work with the Sixers in the past. Are you
Yes.
still working with them at all, or?
You know what? Since Coach Brown left?
Mhm.
No. I was disappointed. First of all, COVID changed things, but I
Sure.
was disappointed post-COVID that Doc Rivers did nothing for coaches
Hmm.
at every level, high school level, CYO, travel, rec level. And Coach Brown did it. And there were over 1,000 coaches there
Hmm.
trying to learn. I learned so much from listening to him, the analytics, how the game has changed, the people he brought in. He made all of us feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I certainly wish they would do it. Maybe the new coach will do it. But one of the ways that I've found that will address an individual coach's needs is to go to a Villanova, go to a St. Joe's, go to a Swarthmore, go to a Sinus, watch their team rehearsals. Most of these cases, they love coaches to come in
Okay.
and observe.
Yep.
And it's a simple thing. There's no charge for it. I went out to Raleigh's. I went to Temple's coach, John Chaney. I went down to Temple and watched his. I went to several Villanovas, and it's free. And most of the times, an assistant or somebody will help you
Hmm.
get stronger as a coach.
Yep. Yep. No, that's a good point. I was thinking just the other day, it's been a while since I've been to any kind of clinic, coaching clinic, and I want to get, plugged back into that. I even was online looking around. It seems like there aren't a lot of clinic style things in the area. I saw some things in Boston, some things to the south. But you bring up a good point. Just getting connected with some local coaches that know what they're doing, going to see some of their practices, going to some of their camps, and this can apply to any sport. It doesn't have to be just basketball. It could be volleyball, it could be soccer, anything. But I feel like in the area that we live in, we have a wealth of even high level high school coaches, college coaches that would be probably happy to take the time um, to give advice, to help, to let you watch what they're doing. Am I correct on that?
Correct. Now, we know coaches are great copiers. And what I've discovered in the last couple of years, very couple things. One, the Wall Street Journal, usually page 14 during basketball season, gives usually uh, half a page devoted to skill development in basketball. It is absolutely amazing. USA doesn't do it. The Inquirer doesn't do it. Daily News doesn't do it. They do it very detailed. It could be on golf, football, basketball,
Hmm.
baseball, tennis. But basketball season, I go nuts. I get so many good articles. It's amazing. In the
Yep.
Wall Street Journal.
Yep.
But it's
You
usually
wouldn't think that
you
normally.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, no. And one of the reasons I stay with the subscription is they do so many analytical commentaries on all the sports. And it's not the typical reading in the USA Today or the Philadelphia Inquirer. They're designed to keep people happy. It's gossip, those kind of. This is analytical stuff. So
Hmm.
that's one. Two, for the basketball coaches, one of the best things out there is called E-Codes, and everything there is done by the NBA coaches. All 32 of them present commentaries, detailed analytics. They do demonstrations. They do player modeling. It could be on passing, could be on shooting, it could be on weaves, it could be on cuts, it could be on screens. That's a second venue. A cautionary flag, though. There's so many things out there on YouTube.
Hmm.
Some of them are quacks, some of them are charlatans.
Yep.
I think you have to be very careful of what you pay attention to.
Sure. Yep.
Because some of it is not correct. It's just fundamentally not sound. And sometimes even a Sports Illustrated article. They did an article on Steph Curry, Player of the Year. I picked up several key things reading that article that were basketball related, and some of them were just coaching related.
Hmm.
So, for example, he pointed out that when the summertime comes, he takes 2 weeks off during the summer, 1 week to run his camp, and 1 week vacation. After that, he goes what he calls 3 on, 1 day off, 3 on, 1 day off. So he works 6 days a week on his skills. So it ties into what you asked me earlier. The best shooter in the world is working his summer 3 on, 1 off. And it's not just basketball. It's strength development.
Hmm.
It's conditioning. The NBA, again, Wall Street Journal pointed out that Steph Curry averages 1.7 miles a game in distance.
Yep.
Number one in the NBA.
Yep.
That is amazing. And he's 34 years of age.
Yep.
And you see how aerobic he is on the court. So many of these things, Coach, tie in the development, the conditioning, the learning process. And the more as we learn as coaches, the more we can teach. Unfortunately, you said we don't have many clinics out there, but you can go to Villanova.
Mm-hmm.
Swarthmore has one of the best Division III programs in the country. My son is the AD there, and I've been pestering him to get me to get out to see him. But last year it didn't work. But that's on my agenda
Mm-hmm.
to go out and see what he does. Two of his assistants are now. One is at Penn Charter, former assistant. The other one just took the LaSalle job. Hundreds of candidates. Those two got it because of the program. So for listeners, if it's baseball or football, find a coach in a program that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Get out and watch the coaches and observe numerous practices. Take notes. One of the points that one of the coach from Duke said that every coach that goes to do a clinic should take notes. I see coaches come in, they must have total recall. There must be Mensa people. They don't take notes.
Yeah.
I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
I tell coaches I'm better than Xerox. If you say it, I got it. Coaches learn to need to take notes.
Yep.
And understand that they don't know what someone else is teaching.
Sure. Yeah, certainly that learning process for a coach never ends, right? I mean, you've been doing this, you said, for 54 years.
54 years.
Yep.
And at the high school level, Coach, I've done everything I could possibly want to. I was Catholic League Coach of the Year. To me, it's the best league in the state on men's and women's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
4 of the 7 state champions this year were in the Catholic League.
Yep.
That award was picked by my peers. And then to be National High School Coach of the Year when I was coaching at Norristown in the Coach High School American game. And here I am. That's passed. And I go down to Charlotte to learn more basketball. Uninvited, paid the flight, tried to set up accommodations to get smarter.
Yep.
And I've been there, done that. And it's a part that, quite frankly, disturbs me. We don't see enough coaches willing to sacrifice to take their kids to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only profession, and I get very excited about this, to be a doctor, teacher, lawyer, plumber, carpenter. You have an apprenticeship, some type of degree. All I have to do is put the word coach in my shirt, and I'm a coach. Well, that's not the real world.
Mm-hmm.
That's not success.
Yep.
You've got how many years? 24, 25 mm-hmm. years at this?
Yep.
Right? You've earned it. Time and experience.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys come in, and one of the things coaches said, Coach from Duke said, you're a coach, dress like a coach. You expect them to respond to you, dress like a
mm-hmm.
coach. And, you see how I am and see how our coaches are.
Yep.
It's the same way. And I subscribe to that.
Yep.
So,
yep. If anybody in the local Philadelphia area is interested, send me an email and I can get you connected with Coach Koch. You have a Facebook page, Bob Koch Hoops.
Correct.
You can check him out on there. Any other ways that people can find out any more about your program?
You know what I would suggest, and I have high school coaches come over. I ask the coaches to come over and observe and take notes. And depending on the drills, either I or one of my assistants will come over and tell you what we're doing and how we're doing it. In August, September, as AU season winds down and vacations are over, we're going to do an invitation only for high school kids to work with me on Sunday. And we're going to incorporate a lot of the drills that I learned at the Jay Billis program and, of course, other drills that I picked up. I'm going to be a guest at Lehigh tomorrow night to watch they'll have 30 players in as part of a recruitment tryout. So I'm up there to observe to see what drills they're going to use for
mm-hmm.
the tryouts. So sometime in August, September, when I'm comfortable with the number of players, we will do our skill part of it, and then we're going to do team stuff that's going to be off the charts. That would be an opportunity for coaches to come over and watch the skills to get them ready for the season.
Yep.
At the same time, watch what we do with team drills, both offensively and defensively.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Coach, we're about out of time. I can't say enough how much I appreciate what you're doing and what you've done for my guys and my program here. Keep up the good work. I hope to see a lot more of you as the days go by, and certainly this summer for sure.
Coach, thanks for having me. I love this. And as you can tell, I'm geriatric. You know that I am. Well, that's a reality check. I am
I,
geriatric,
I love it. It,
but I love what I do.
yep.
And
And it shows.
I want the players and the coaches to get better. And I think if there's going to be a legacy for me, it has to be the coaches, the players that take what we have taught, learned it, and pass it on to the
Yep.
next generation.
Yep.
And that's what I tell all our players. Someday they're going to be coaches, high school, college, maybe beyond. Think and act like a coach right now. Transfer it and take it to the next level.
Absolutely. Thanks again for coming over tonight, Coach. We'll see you around.
This was a party.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Real Game. I'm going to leave you with a quote by John Wooden that echoes something that Coach Koch said tonight in this interview. And the quote is this: confidence comes from being prepared. So good luck, coaches, and coach on.